Thanks to my father-in-law, I recently acquired this old, heavy 1950s Rockwell Delta jointer, or some call them planers in other countries, and it was definitely in need of an overhaul. I checked for lead paint and it was clear, so I moved on to completely restore it. I took every single piece apart in the process. I have to say I really had a lot of fun completing this project, and the joiner works great. Except for the blades were pretty damaged, and I replaced them with new ones, which leaves me with 3 old high-speed steel blades to upcycle. Well, I need to make a decision on what I'm going to make out of these old joiner blades. It's a good opportunity for upcycling some materials instead of just throwing them out. But I need to figure out what to make out of them. I have an idea. Okay. An idea here. I was thinking about a chip knife. Well, you are holding a chip knife in your hand. I already have one in the shop. You might be able to even get 2 of them out of one piece. I don't think I want to go with a chip knife, but thanks for your opinion. Okay. That's a good idea. Okay. Well, I was thinking that maybe we would use some... once again, micro lathe tools. You're holding some micro lathe tools in your hand. It's another good idea, but I want to go with something that I don't really have in the shop, or have to listen to me. Something that I need a better one of. No. And I think watching you guys, I'm going to go with a marking knife for the shop, or maybe a couple of them. Yeah, I'll go with a marking knife. I'm going with a simple design on this marking knife. My one concern is having enough material in the ferrule. I want to at least shoot for 1/4 inch of wood with a 1/2 inch on the tool steel. I did consider a brass pin design with no ferrule, but the hardest drill bit that I had was made out of cobalt, and it would not penetrate the high-speed steel. I really needed a carbide drill bit, and I just don't have one in the shop. Another concern that I have is providing myself a comfortable tip angle, which for me I figured to be about 40 degrees. And this is my personal preference. You may like a steeper angle or a more shallow angle, depending on how you want to hold your tool. So I marked out my knife shape angle and decided on the blade length based on how long I wanted the actual handle to be, and that included the ferrule, which I used 3/8 inch brass little water tube ferrules. I originally started freehand grinding on my bench grinder, but then decided I really wanted to start out with a straight edge, so I made this little jig out of some scrap wood. Fortunately for me, my table saw blade kerf was a perfect match. The jig worked really well, and the bevel is now gone. Now, I could have used the jig to grind out the tang, but I decided to go with my angle grinder because it was much faster. One of the shoulders was a little off, so it made the blade sit crooked on the ferrule. So I just used my angle grinder to clean that up a little bit, and it worked great. "40-degree angles came out, and they were in line with the center of the tank. I did get a little bluing on the high-speed steel, but I did use my disc grinder and belt sander and cleaned up the edges and faces. I think it's going to be okay for what it's used for. As for the bevel angle, I marked out 245 opposing guidelines and this makeshift jig. I put the tang end flat on the table against the wood block following the 45-degree line. Now, I'm pretty sure I don't need the marking knife to be this sharp, but I was playing around with it anyway and having some fun. So I selected some wood for the handle. I went with lace wood. I like this wood. I have a lot of it in the shop, and I wanted to make some extra blanks anyway for some pens. And for my second marking knife, I've chosen to use some black palm. It can be a challenging wood to work with, and you should definitely mind the splinters that can come out of it, but I think it'll be really nice when it's done. And in case you're wondering, I used a 30-minute 2-part epoxy to attach the brass ferrules to the tenons. Then I let the epoxy cure for 24 hours. So in order to get a good hand grip on the tool and a good balance, I came up with a few designs and then chose 2 different shapes so I can determine which one I like better. For the lace wood, there'll be more of a concave and a bead towards the ferrule. Later on, I did decide to 86 the points of interest, or the burn lines that you see in these designs, because the wood was just so beautiful on its own that it didn't need anything else. Here I'm using my Easy Wood Tools detailer to make a ball end cap. Well, close to a ball. I decided to go with a friction polish because it was easy to apply and quick, and it's easily repairable later if I drop these tools in the shop. I also did apply a microcrystalline wax as a top coat. And in case you're wondering, it was 3 coats of friction polish and 3 coats of wax. As for the black palm, it was turned exactly the same way as the lace wood, except for the shape is different. It has more of a bulge at the front and tapers down to the ferrule. The only other difference is I applied 1 coat of this wood hardener before I sanded. This really helps with woods like black palm to harden the fibers and to smooth and level out the surface. And it's good for spalted woods if you don't have a stabilizing pot. And for my final step, I used a 2-part epoxy to attach the blades to the handles. And before I put the blades in, I used 80 grit sandpaper to rough up the tangs. Then I let them sit for 24 hours. 2 different designs, but I like each. They're comfortable. and I think they're going to serve me well in my shop. I'm glad I went with making a couple of marking knives for my shop. Yeah, I know, but it's better. This is better. Trust me. Okay? Okay, well, maybe next time. I do still have one left over, another ferrule left over. Maybe I can try something else. You know, make one of you guys happy. If you don't know what these are for, they're for making precision marking or measuring lines. And just as an example, take a pencil, and this is like a 7 millimeter. But I'll take one of these, butt it up close, mark that in, and try the other one on this side. That's a really thin line. And then if you wanted to use the other side, or you can just flip it over to the other bevel and use that side. Wow, that is really thin in comparison to the pencil line. Also, if you have a joiner that has larger blades than this 4-inch, like a 6-inch, 10-inch, 12-inch, then you could probably make a bunch of these out of one blade. Well, I'm not sure why I didn't do this sooner. These are going to work out great. Oh yeah, I know, I didn't have a joiner. Well, I really hope you enjoyed this video. As always, please stay safe in your shop at all times. Take care, and thank you.